Chipper Jones, last year's runner-up for Rookie of the Year in the National League and a star in postseason play. Weapon number 2, Fred McGriff. He with better than 300 career home runs and on a quest for a Triple Crown. Weapon number 3, Ryan Klesko. He already has 21 home runs. It's Lethal Weapon 3 against Nomo and the Dodgers next.
Welcome to Major League Baseball on Fox. Same game, new attitude.
With the start of the Olympics just around the corner, this city of Atlanta is hot, hot for baseball. It's the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hot, I guess, would be the key word. It is warm, 87 degrees, 57% humidity, but we are ready for baseball as the Braves take on the Dodgers. Joe Buck and Tim McCarver. It is warm, as we would expect. The Atlanta Braves are rather warm. So is John Smoltz. Last night, he won for the 13th time in a row. He rode the big bat of Ryan Klesko. He hit his 21st home run of the season, and the Braves went on to defeat the Dodgers 3-1. And Tim McCarver, it's very easy to talk about the Atlanta Braves and highlight their pitching, and it's still as good as anybody's pitching. But there's no doubt the heart of this order is carrying this team right now.
The young, strong arms of the Braves will always be talked about as long as they're together. But with Ryan Klesko, Fred McGriff, and Chipper Jones chipping in for 48 home runs, and look at the RBI production. They've been consistent, and they've been very good. And keep in mind that this threesome lacks David Justice, who is out for the remainder of the season.
Well, while offense has carried the Atlanta Braves, that is not the case with the Dodgers. They are doing it with pitching, and for the first time in a long time, Tim, doing it with defense.
I think ever since the Dodgers moved to Los Angeles back in 1958, they've always had good pitching. The one thing they haven't had, good defense, but they're second in the National League this year.
They have ridden that to a second-place position in the National League West, but everybody right in the middle of the race. It is only June, but the race is certainly heating up in the NL West. We have worked up a good lather, getting ready for the game today. What a pitching matchup. Hideo Nomo and Steve Avery. Happy to be bringing you the game of the week on Fox. We'll return to Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium for the first pitch right after this word from your local Fox station. With the new Olympic Park in the right side of your picture. On the left side, it is Fulton County Stadium, where the Braves have played 4 years. In fact, this is the 32nd year of baseball here at Fulton County Stadium. And recently, the Braves have been lighting it up here in Atlanta. Here are the new Miller Beer starting lineups for the Dodgers. First of all, Delano DeShields will lead it off, then Roger Cedeno batting second. Mike Piazza in the lineup hitting third. Eric Karros is cleaning up. Raul Mondesi in right. Mike Flowers hitting sixth. Billy Ashley is in left field. Juan Castro, the shortstop, and Hideo Nomo is pitching and batting ninth. A look at the Braves defense with Klesko, Grissom, and Bautista in the outfield, left to right, with Jones, Blauser, Lemke, McGriff on the infield, third to first. Eddie Perez is catching the left-hander Steve Avery. Avery heads to work with a record of 6-5, and now with my best Albert Brooks sweating impersonation gone, we're settled down, ready for baseball. And Tim, you're ready to watch Steve Avery, a left-hander who you really admire.
Steve with a good fastball. He will rarely come inside the right-handed batters. Piazza and Karros and Mondesi, three guys that if he comes inside, he'll come inside bad. He has a very good changeup, and his curveball is his third best pitch. Talking to Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach of the Braves, yesterday, and Leo told me that Steve had all three of these pitches when he graduated from high school about 30 miles outside of Detroit back in 1989. So it's not something that he was influenced by because of Maddox and Glavine and their changeups.
Bobby Cox and Tommy Lasorda, their teams in town, and a good matchup. A matchup that used to knock heads in the NL West for years before the realignment. The umpires this afternoon, Mark Barron is behind home plate with Jerry Davis at first base, Terry Tata at second, and Bruce Dreckman, young umpire, over at third base. He worked the plate here last night. World champions are on TV. Wake the kids, phone the neighbors. They take on the Dodgers, and Delano DeShields looks at ball one. Delano DeShields back in the leadoff spot. Did the Dodgers a couple of weeks ago in New York. DeShields was batting in the sixth position. Back up top, and now a 1-1 count. Strikeouts have been a problem for Delano. He has 55 strikeouts and 255 at-bats. That's why he had been moved down in the lineup prior to the last week or so. Now Avery gets out in front 1-2.
Joe, in the absence of Brett Butler, I don't think the Dodgers really have a leadoff batter. They have tried Roger Cedeno and now DeShields.
DeShields tries out Klesko in left. And the leadoff man gone for LA as DeShields pops into shallow left.
I've always, however, thought that the leadoff position was a little bit overrated in that the only sure time that a leadoff hitter leads off an inning is the beginning of the game. He could be batting fourth in an inning. He could be batting second in an inning.
Here is Roger Cedeno, one of the players who has been used in that leadoff spot. And he looks at a strike over the outside corner. There are a lot of managers who, if they don't have a pure leadoff hitter, will put an RBI guy in that spot because much of the time a leadoff hitter will come up with men on base. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cedeno will be followed by Mike Piazza, Tom Lasorda's lineup here this afternoon. 1-1 to Roger. Now he's in the hole. Avery's second start against the Dodgers this season. Got hammered his first time out back in LA, losing 9-2 way back in the beginning of April. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Cedeno. See ya, 2 out. That'll bring up Mike Piazza, who is back in the lineup for the first time in the last 3 days.
One of the more prolific hitters in the major leagues. Much chronicle. Mike Piazza, an inside hitter. He's a guy who likes the ball down. The one thing that pitchers cannot do is throw strikes in these areas. Otherwise, he'll nail you. If you're going to come inside the Piazza, it's got to be in this area.
Piazza takes a pitch outside. Or for the younger generation watching, if you can picture Hollywood squares, he can handle Paul Lind in the middle, but Jim J. Bullock in the top left corner, forget it. 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike on Piazza.
That's why we said that. That's a pretty good analogy.
You like that? I've been working. I worked on that all night.
Not too shabby. That's why Steve Avery will rarely come inside the Piazza. Away, away, away.
Good fastball for strike 2. And he caught the outside corner.
Forget that Rosemarie square, right?
That's right. Stay away.
Right around the letters in the middle of the plate.
Got the outside corner, 1-2 pitch, and Piazza stays alive. Piazza bothered by that bad right knee. Everybody talks about how it will affect him as a catcher or base running, but hitting-wise, it's got to affect him. That power knee, that back knee in his batting stance.
Pushing off of it.
His average still second best in the National League, hitting .349, and the 1-2 from Avery. What a good first inning for Steve Avery. Dodgers go down 1-2-3. Jim J. Bullock mentioned on a network TV baseball game. It only happens here. 1/2 inning, no score. Nothing across in the first half inning. Bottom of inning number 1, no score, and the Braves come to bat. A look at their new Miller Beer starting lineup. Here's what Bobby Cox dreamed about last night. Marquise Grissom leads off in center. Mark Lemke, Chipper Jones, then Fred McGriff. What a year he's putting together. Ryan Klesko in left. Jeff Blauser, the shortstop. Eddie Perez catching. It is Danny Bautista batting 8th in right field. And the pitcher batting 9th is Steve Avery. The Dodger defense, which is much improved, number 2 in the National League. Ashley, Cedeno, Mondesi in the outfield, with Flowers, Castro, DeShields, and Karros on the infield. Mike Piazza catching Hideo Nomo.
Nomo, the starter in last year's All-Star game, and of course the Rookie of the Year, tries to get ahead with the fastball and finish hitters off with the split finger out of the strike zone. As a matter of fact, he has 2 types of split finger fastballs. One that he throws for a strike early in the count, and one that he throws in the dirt with 2 strikes.
First up, Marquise Grissom. He'll be followed by Lemke and Chipper Jones. A high strike from Hideo Nomo. Grissom digs in, hitting .279, 7 home runs, 29 RBIs, just 12 stolen bases. Former Montreal Expo. That's foul, and that's strike 2. Hideo Nomo with that odd windup, but so effective last year when he won the Rookie of the Year award. 13-6 with an ERA of 2.5. 0-2 to Grissom.
This windup became so popular they made a movie out of it. The Twister. You've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
The Tornado right here. Watch how he puts his back to the hitter. There was a reliever who used to pitch similarly.
That's into right field, a leadoff base hit for Grissom. And a nice start to the first inning for the world champion Braves.
Folks may remember Gene Garber, who pitched with the Atlanta Braves. As a matter of fact, Gene Garber was the pitcher when Pete Rose ended his 44-game hitting streak in this ballpark. The one thing you can do on Nomo is run against him. 18 stolen bases in 23 tries. You might even see Lemke lay one down and sacrifice early, play for 1 run early because of Avery's effectiveness.
For years, Jeff Blauser had been the number 2 hitter in this lineup. Now it's Mark Lemke, and he has really taken to this spot, batting behind Grissom, batting in front of Chipper Jones. What a wonderful spot to be in any batting order. He is hitting .299 with 4 home runs, 18 RBIs just off the DL, and they missed him. Grissom trying to size up Nomo. A start and a stop by Grissom and a 1-1 count. Hideo Nomo, Tim, has already been clocked at 90 miles per hour, so his velocity back up like it was last year.
Now, talking to Dave Wallace yesterday, you see the stolen bases right there. He had a high number of stolen bases last year also.
1 ball, 1 strike on Lemke. Now 2-1.
Dave Wallace, the pitching coach of the Dodgers, said the one thing that they have tried to do with Nomo, one bad habit that he gets into in the stretch, he brings his hands back prematurely. They're trying, there's Dave Wallace, the pitching coach of the Dodgers. What they're trying to do with Nomo is to bring the hands back when the leg picks up. Because if you can pick the hands going back as a runner at first base, you can run on that movement alone. Once the hands go back, you're committed to go home.
He's behind on the count to Lemke, which adds to his troubles. Red dot over the first base bag representing Grissom, who led off with a base hit into right. And a big hole on the right side of the infield for the left-handed batter Lemke if he can pull Nomo. 2-1. Now 3-1.
Speed doesn't always show up with a stolen base. Nomo behind Mark Lemke, 3-1 now. And some of that has had to do with Marquise Grissom being on first.
While Nomo has worried about Grissom, he's fallen behind Lemke, 3-1, with Chipper Jones on deck. Grissom running. It's ball 4. And there are 2 on with nobody out. Pitch barely missed. A walk following the base hit. And Nomo in first inning trouble.
Now, the one thing a catcher wants with the count 3 balls and 1 strike, he wants a quick call from the umpire so he knows whether to throw the ball or not. Piazza did not get a quick call. You see, Mark Barron behind home plate did not make the call unless he made it verbally. Piazza threw through anyway, but if that ball goes out to center field, it's live, of course, and Grissom could go to third.
Early RBI chance for Chipper Jones, who has driven in 44. 2 on with nobody out. Here's the matchup between last year's Rookie of the Year and last year's runner-up in that category. Chipper Jones facing Hideo Nomo.
Nomo with 118 first-place votes. Chipper Jones with 104. It's an arguable point. I thought Chipper Jones should have had the Rookie of the Year award.
I agree. 2 on with nobody out here in the first inning. Good fastball for strike 2. Really an age-old argument with regard to a pitcher versus a position player, an everyday player. And for the better part of last year, Chipper Jones led this team in home runs and RBIs, a world championship team. But there is no denying Hideo Nomo had an unbelievable rookie of the year. 0-2 to count, 2 on with nobody out, and just missed low and away. His rookie year, Hideo Nomo struck out 236 hitters.
3 straight fastballs from Nomo. Jones probably looking for that splitter in the dirt right now. Very tough to lay off of.
Laid off it there in a 2-2 count. A long first inning for Hideo Nomo. Key today with the kind of heat we have here at Fulton County Stadium. Get out there, get your outs, and get back into the dugout. A single, a walk, and now a 2-2 count on Chipper Jones. Now 3-2.
If the runners do run here, 3-2, nobody out, Mike Piazza's got to be thinking about second base. Grissom, a much faster runner than Lemke.
Three balls, 2 strikes, 2 on with nobody out. And the runners may take off as Nomo brings it home on 3-2. Not going, and a little flare is foul. Sounded like Jones broke his back. Pretty good pitch in on the hands by Hideo Nomo.
It looked like the splitter too, and Chipper Jones fighting it off the other way to stay alive. Nope, fastball. Fastball in on the hands. Chipper Jones stays alive. A 91-mile-an-hour fastball from Nomo.
Everybody talking about the velocity of Hideo Nomo, saying it dropped 5 to 8 miles per hour after his rookie year. And back up above 90, and I would imagine the warmer weather adds a little bit to that, but you have to wonder with Hideo Nomo, will that velocity hold up throughout the course of today's game? First inning has been a tough inning for Hideo Nomo, as the graphic shows. 2 on with nobody out, and a 3-2 count on Jones. Runners are going, and the foul ball keeps Chipper up there. Both Grissom and Lemke took off.
If one goes, the other's sure to follow. In this situation, you're not running to steal the base. You're running hoping the hitter can put the ball in play, preferably on the ground.
It was 0-2 on Chipper Jones, now 3-2. Pickoff play back at second, no throw. Not only a very long first inning for Nomo, but he has really slowed it down. 17th pitch of the inning for Hideo coming up right here. 2 on with nobody out. Runners go, and another foul.
Oh, boy. Juan Castro, the shortstop, vacating his position with Nomo. Nomo came home. The whole left side of the infield was open. Instead of stepping off as he should have, Nomo came home. Watch Castro at second. That left the whole left side of the infield open.
Good battle here between Nomo and Chipper Jones. Again, the 3-2 from the Dodger right-hander. Runners going again. Into shallow left. Castro, what a catch for the double play. Maybe a triple play. Got all 3. The runners were going. Castro with the catch, Lasorda with the cheer, and a triple play ends a long first inning for Hideo Nomo after 1. No score. Well, the triple play gets Hideo Nomo and the Dodgers out of a long first inning.
Well, it's a brilliant play by Castro. Watch how quickly he turns to throw to DeShields at second. DeShields, in a delayed attempt to get Lemke, gets him. A triple play with both runners running, and Jones really accommodating the Dodgers with that looper into left center.
Castro started it On to DeShields, on to Karros, and the triple play. 6-4-3 after the pop-up that was caught in. Look at the first part of the play. The pop-up that he caught was not an easy play at all.
Great play, and then the presence of mind to turn and throw immediately. Otherwise, they don't have Lemke at first.
Karros drives one foul, and the count 1-2. Another look.
Well, watch the catch. Both runners running. Now watch him turn immediately, throw to DeShields, and DeShields to Karros to complete the triple play.
Now the 1-2 to Karros to third for Chipper Jones. Gets the high hop. And the leadoff man is gone here in the second inning. The last time the Dodgers turned a triple play was in 1949 in Boston. It's been a little while.
It's their first Los Angeles Dodger triple play.
Changed their address since then.
Tommy loves that. Part of a Hollywood script.
So with one out and nobody on, Raul Mondesi at the plate, hitting .258, 14 homers, 40 RBIs. Hit a home run here last night off Wohlers in the 9th inning, but the Dodgers still lost to the Braves 3-1. Dodgers start the day's action a game out of first in the NL West. Good fastball from Avery. And a 1-ball, 1-strike count on Mondesi. The Dodgers 1 game out, a half game up on Colorado, a game and a half up on San Francisco. 2 balls and a strike.
Last triple play, the Dodgers turned Gene Hermansky to Jackie Robinson to Gil Hodges.
This time, Castro to DeShields to Karros. 2-1 pitch to Mondesi. Avery doing a good job of keeping those deliveries down. Mondesi not getting much to hit, has a 2-2 count. There's John Smoltz and Maddox. Good pitching there with those 2 right-handers. Smoltz 13-1, beat the Dodgers here last night. 2-2 pitch. Will that stay in play? Nobody can get there, and it'll stay 2-2.
Interesting thing about that pitching pairing, that pitching tandem, John Smoltz and Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux was the last pitcher to win the Cy Young Award out of an Atlanta Brave uniform. He did it with the Cubs back in 1991.
Smoltz, as I mentioned, 13-1. Meanwhile, Maddux is 5-5. People wondering what the heck's going on. Maddux, however, in 1993, his first year with Atlanta, started out 5-5. Ended up 20-10 and won the Cy Young Award.
I said 91 with Chicago. That was 1992 when Greg won the Cy Young Award.
See, 91, that was Tom Glavine. He won it with Atlanta.
That's right. And John Smoltz, if he keeps throwing like he's been throwing, winning 13 in a row, will make Leo Mazzoni happy.
Spent 18 years as a player, manager, and coach in the minor leagues, and he's been the pitching coach here since 1990 and done a wonderful job. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Mondesi. Now a full count. Karros grounded out. Mondesi up, Flowers on deck. No score here in the second inning. Avery had him reaching into center field for Grissom, and Avery has retired the first 5 Dodger hitters. Right now, let's go back to Chip Carey in Hollywood for an update. Chip.
Okay, Joe, thanks a lot. Quick start for the Indians after a Kenny Lofton double in the top of the first. He stole third, then Eddie Murray lifts a sac fly into left to score Lofton. No problems for Albert Bell with the Yankee fans as the Tribes lead it 1-0 in the first.
Thank you, Chip. Boy, everybody had Eddie Murray packed away. Oh, he's finished. He can't play anymore. He has been hot of late and chipping in with that Cleveland offense. The Indians, however, getting a little pressure from the Chicago White Sox. White Sox only a half game out at the start of the day. Hitter now is Flowers. He took a ball. Off the mask of Perez, and now a 1-1 count. In the AL Central, it's Cleveland out in front. They have 23 losses. Same can be said for the White Sox. And it is a two-team race in the AL Central right now.
Chicago White Sox, the biggest story thus far in baseball this year.
White Sox playing today at Seattle. There's a strike and a 1-2 count on Blowers. Blowers batting with 2 out, nobody on here in the second inning, no score. Avery trying to retire the first 6 Dodger hitters. Right on cue. 6 in a row. Avery off to a good start. So's the Dodger defense. They've already turned to triple play. An inning and a half complete in Atlanta. Dodgers and Braves, no score.
Saturday Baseball is brought to you by Genuine Chevrolet, the cars more Americans trust. By Miller Lite, when you've got the great taste of an ice-cold Miller Lite, life is good. By Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. And by Pepsid AC Acid Controller. You can be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
Back at Fulton County Stadium, McGriff will lead off. He hits behind Chipper Jones, ahead of Ryan Klesko. Here's how he feels about hitting in that cleanup spot.
Well, when they're hitting good, it makes it easier for me. I love seeing Chipper on base, and Ryan's been having a real good year hitting behind me, so that helps because that means I'll see a few more pitches. If he's struggling, then it's going to make it kind of tough for me.
Tim, that happens in any lineup. You're as good as the guys who hit around you. Ryan Klesko hits behind McGriff. I think it happens on this pitching staff as well. These starting pitchers put an example out there, and the next guy who pitches the next game has to try and follow it. This Braves team has a good thing going right now.
Prior to Klesko, the Braves had David Justice hitting behind Fred McGriff.
McGriff looks at a strike, and we're underway in the second inning. Bottom half, no score. McGriff, a .580 career slugger. Hitting .332, 17 home runs, 59 RBIs. In the top 10 in all 3 categories. Nothing and 2 the count.
I don't think I have ever seen a hitter with the finish that Fred McGriff has. Left-handed hitter, usually when they finish over their right shoulder. When Fred McGriff, even when he makes contact, he twirls that bat with his right hand. Very, very unusual.
0-2 from Nomo. In on the hands. It'll stay 0-2. In the first inning, Grissom led off with a hit, then a walk to Lemke, but the triple play followed. And the Braves sent only 3 to the plate in the first inning. Again, the 0-2 from Nomo. That's ball 1. McGriff, Klesko, and Blauser. There's Tommy Lasorda with a young protege. Maybe that's the guy who'll take over for Tommy Lasorda.
Maybe that's the next Mike Piazza, who used to be a bat boy for him.
That's into right field. Well hit, but right at Mondesi. They've named Tommy Lasorda's successor about 15 times with the Dodgers. And Tommy keeps on rolling, and those successors are the ones that die off, not Tommy. 20 years as the Dodger manager. Kroger is especially proud to televise today's game here at Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium. The blimp, the Spirit of Atlanta, will be donated by Kroger to Atlanta's police for Olympic security. And they bring you the pictures from overhead here in Atlanta. This city will be bursting with activity in the middle of July. Opening ceremonies on the 19th. Klesko out in front, 2-0.
Ryan Klesko's got to love that. Sports Illustrated doing that article about Ryan going around with a SWAT team earlier this spring.
He may be up in that blimp.
Yeah, right.
Jam shot to first, easy for Karros. 2 up, 2 down. So the first 2 are gone. A better start to this inning than the first for Nomo. And Jeff Blauser walks to the plate. Blauser back into the lineup. He's missed the last couple of games with a bad ankle. He rolled it over in Colorado. hitting .250 with the 9 home runs, but as we mentioned at the top, has been moved down in this Atlanta batting order. Years past up in that 2 spot, now batting 6th. 2 out, nobody on here in the 2nd inning. Ball 1. Evidently that accident for Blauser in Colorado rather nasty.
He stepped in a hole running to first base, and he had his right ankle taped, 2 rolls of tape on it. And when he stepped in the hole, he split the tape. Now that is a severe sprain. If you can split 2 rolls of tape on your ankle, he had a cortisone shot in that ankle on Thursday. Well enough to play today.
1 ball, 1 strike. Now 2-1 from Nomo. Blauser trying to keep this 2nd inning alive. Eddie Perez waits on deck.
They'll be splitting the tape in this city about a month from now, but that's not really what they had in mind.
Not at all. 2 balls and a strike, and that's popped up on the infield. DeShields wants it. That'll do it for the Braves in the 2nd. No score after 2 in Atlanta. We'll be back to Fulton County Stadium after this from your local station. Hey, that means it's time to play. We get into the 3rd inning, introduced with trumpets blazing. No score after 2. No base runners for the Dodgers. No base runners for the Dodgers after 2. And leading it off is the number 7 hitter, Billy Ashley. Ashley, spot duty in the lineup for the Dodgers. Last year had 88 strikeouts and 215 at bats. But when he connects, they go as far as anybody can hit him. He is a strong right-handed power hitter. Avery behind in the count, 2-0. Now 3-0. First time Avery's done this.
Billy Ashley looking down at Joey Malfitano as Juan Castro's on deck. I would think Tommy Lasorda will turn him loose here.
3-0 pitch. He did not. 3-1. I'm with you. Ashley, as I mentioned, the right-handed power hitter, gets a 3-0 fastball. Dodgers didn't cut him loose. Now 3-1. Now 3-2. Was 3-0, now 3-2. Avery has struck out 3, allowed no base runners. Now allows his first base runner on his first walk of the day. And the leadoff man is on here in the 3rd inning. Folks, next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, Paul O'Neill and the Yankees take on Kenny Lofton and the Indians. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central, or 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and time in your area. And before that, check out the pregame show. Doing a wonderful job back in Hollywood. Today they had a sit-down chat with Mike Piazza. Next week, Steve Lyons will be talking about superstitious players in the big leagues. There's the first hit of the day for the Dodgers. It belongs to Juan Castro. And the first 2 are on here in the 3rd inning for L.A.
Sometimes when you walk a hitter, you really find the fat part of the plate, not wanting to walk the next hitter. And Castro gets the first Dodger hit. So the Dodgers now set up for another triple play.
Got him right where they want him.
That's right.
Only on the reverse side, here's Hideo Nomo. See how good of a bunter Nomo is as a hitter, 4 out of 24. With a couple of doubles to his credit. But up there to sacrifice, and he takes ball 1.
By the way, Ernie Harwell is doing CBS radio right next to us. And he broadcast the last triple play by the Brooklyn Dodgers versus the Boston Braves. April 1949. There's Ernie with the cap on. What a venerable gentleman he is. Longtime voice of the Detroit Tigers.
Now working with Jim Hunter on CBS radio. Nomo trying to bunt, missed it. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ernie Harwell, one of the great voices.
Oh, yeah,
in baseball.
absolutely.
You hear that voice, you know baseball is on.
One of the bad things about the rotation play with the 3rd baseman charging and the 1st baseman charging the shortstop going to third, the second baseman going to first, is you have nobody in the middle of the infield. Eddie Perez had a shot at Ashley then, but nobody was covering.
Now the 1-1 from Avery. Good bunt. Avery's only play at first. Safe, and the bases are loaded. That'll be a sacrifice E1 to load the bases here in the third inning.
Not only a good bunt, but a good bunt at the right time. Chipper Jones had come in a couple of steps. He retreats to his position, and now when he sees the ball is bunted, Avery has to field it, and he throws wide at first, pulling Lemke off the bag. Watch Chipper Jones. The wheel or the rotation play was not on. He was back toward third. Had the rotation play been on, Jones catches it and throws to third for the force out. As it stands, bases loaded, nobody out.
Sacrifice and the error. Second error on the year for Avery. And now to Shields up the middle, the base hit. Ashley scores. Castro will score. And it's 2-0 Dodgers here in the third. The Shields now with 20 RBIs, 2 hits, a walk, an error in the inning. And the Dodgers take a 2-0 third inning lead.
First ball hitting right back through the originator. Fastball right down the pipe. Bobbled by Grissom, but with Nomo running, he does not go to third base.
Nomo stops at second to Shields. On at first. Still nobody out in the inning. And the Dodgers take a lead here in Atlanta as Avery has had a rough third. It started with the leadoff walk.
And I think you could see another bunt by Cedeno right here.
Rogers struck out his first time, and he does bunt, and it is a good bunt. Perez is only played at first, and the sacrifice good, 2-4. Runners move up to second and third. They're there with only 1 out.
Good bunt by Cedeno. The Dodgers doing 2 things right in this inning. But you know, those leadoff walks, usually if you have a leadoff walk, something bad is apt to happen. Then the hit by Castro, and now they're forced to walk Piazza intentionally to try to get the double play ground ball by Karros.
Piazza draws the intentional walk. He struck out his first time. He's been struggling a little lately. He struck out his first at bat, hasn't been in the lineup for 3 days, but they respect his numbers and his average, and he will load him up. That's ball 3.
Joe, prior to that walk to Billy Ashby, Avery had walked only 1 batter in the last 96 batters that had led off the inning.
So the leadoff walk, Ashley drew the walk, then the base hit by Castro. Then the bunt and the error. Leo Mazzoni rocking away, the mad rocker they call him. They'll crank that rock up a little bit if Karros gets a base hit. He's up with the bases loaded, 1 out. Dodgers already up 2-0. That's well hit into center. Grissom back. It is off the top, off the wall. 2 runs will score. Piazza makes it to third, and it's 4-0 LA. Karros thought it was gone. Piazza hoped it was gone, so he didn't have to run. And Mike makes it only to third, and it's second and third. 2 more runs in, 4-0 Dodgers.
Delino to Shields went back to tag up at second base. This ball misses going out about a foot. Fielded nicely by Grissom. Klauser throwing home. They had a play. You can see the Shields, who was on second base, just beat the throw home. That wasn't close, but it gives you an idea of what the Shields was doing, going back to the bag, and now Mondesi will be walked intentionally.
Going back to the bag or coasting. I think most on the field thought that ball was gone. It stayed in play. And now Mondesi draws the walk with the Dodgers up 4-0 here in the third inning. This will be the 3rd walk of the inning. The 2nd intentional walk. And with the bases loaded, again only 1 out, the batter will be Mike Flowers. Mike Balecki getting loose for the Braves in their bullpen. Normally, the middle relievers don't even get rest until the 4th or 5th inning around here in Atlanta with the kind of starters they have. But Bilecki getting loose here in the 3rd. Bases loaded, 1 out for Blowers. Chance for Mike and the Dodgers to bust it wide open here in inning number 3. Bobby Cox sweating through this 3rd inning with Steve Avery. Blowers has driven in 26. Bases loaded, only 1 out. That is foul down the right field line for strike 2. Blowers not a great start. That's typical of his career. Just a .203 lifetime hitter during the month of April. Lately has picked it up. He has hit the 4 home runs while driving in 26. And it's a Blowers-Avery face-off here in the 3rd inning. Avery has struck out 3 hitters today, and he's looking for strikeout number 4. That's well hit to right. Bautista back to make the catch. Piazza tags and scores. Karros tags and moves to 3rd, and it's 5-0 Dodgers. Good piece of hitting by Blowers. He just stuck the bat out, lined it into right for his 27th RBI of the year.
Looks like a lazy curveball from Steve Avery. We mentioned at the top that Avery's 3rd best pitch is breaking ball, but it was good hitting by Blowers, trying to put the ball in play, and he does for RBI number 27 on the year.
So now with the score 5-0 LA, 1st and 3rd, 2 out. Billy Ashley, who started this inning with a walk, steps in with a chance to add to the Dodger lead. Should end the inning. Bautista in right. And a long top half of the 3rd is over for Avery and the Braves. The Dodgers get 5. A big lead for Hideo Nomo and Los Angeles. 5-0. Dodgers out in front as we move into the bottom of the 3rd inning. And Hideo Nomo back to work with a 5-0 lead. Leading it off for Atlanta, the number 7 hitter, Eddie Perez. Right now, Albert Bell is digging in for the Cleveland Indians. Indians are playing at New York. They're tied 1-1 in the top of the 3rd inning. Albert struck out in his first at bat. He has Lofton a runner at 3rd. And 1 out. Albert Bell, who has hit 25 home runs, is on pace right now, and that's difficult to say during the month of June, but on pace right now to break the home run record in a single season held by Roger Maris.
And his hearing was held this week in New York, and rumor has it that his suspension could be dwindled down from 5 games to 3 games.
Fouls one out of play, and might be too much to talk about, but in case you're wondering, right now Bell is on pace for 62 home runs this season. If it's a 3-game suspension, on pace for 61 home runs, but if he gets the full 5-game suspension, he would not tie the record. He would be on pace for 60 in just 157 games. And that assumes a lot.
Yeah.
It assumes that he will play every game the rest of the way, regardless of the suspension. But he is hanging tight and hanging tough for Cleveland, trying to put the Indians on top in the 3rd inning. They're tied with the Yankees 1-1 in a big battle in the American League.
It also assumes that he will continue at the pace that he's had up to this point.
25 home runs. Trying to drive in Lofton here and put the Indians on top. Good series in Cleveland, or I should say in New York. Cleveland outfielder Albert Bell in last night's game pelted by a few objects out of the stands at Yankee Stadium, which caused a couple of delays during the game. Teammates walked off the field at one point. Lofton is the runner at third. And there is one out in that inning. 2 outs in our inning. We're in the bottom of the third inning with the Dodgers out in front 5-0. And one foul ball after the next off the bat of Albert Bell. Avery dumps one into left field past the diving Ashley. It'll roll to the wall. Avery will end up at third base. He's there with 2 outs. 9th hit of the year for Steve Avery. Trying to start a 2-out rally here in the third inning. Meanwhile, in New York, with a runner at third and 1 out, Bell has had a long at bat.
That ball going away from Billy Ashley all the way to the wall. The 5th extra base hit for Avery this year. As a matter of fact, the Braves pitchers now have 27 hits on the year, and of course that leads National League pitchers. I say of course because the Braves, with a pitching core that has probably the best athletes of any pitching staff in the major leagues.
2 out, a runner at third for Grissom. And a good block by Piazza to save the first run of the day for Atlanta. Meanwhile, Albert Bell is still up. What's he been up for, half an hour now? Meanwhile, we've almost played an inning here in Atlanta.
2 outs and a triple in his at bat.
That's foul into right. Great at bat by Albert Bell. This is the 11th pitch in the at bat. Brian Boehringer just brought up from the minors, pitching for the Yankees. Meanwhile, Grissom trying to put the Braves on the board with a 1-1 count. That's out of play. Bell finally grounds out. The run scores. Lofton at the plate. The RBI for Albert Bell, and the Indians take a 2-1 lead in the third inning at New York.
It's kind of confusing. I just put 4-3 RBI on my scorecard, and I realized Grissom's at bat still going on.
I did the same. Grissom behind on the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Runner at third, 2 out. And a 2-2 count. Avery a 2-out triple. Dodgers out in front 5-0 here in the bottom of the third inning. And a 2-2 count on Grissom. Little flare into right, a base hit, a triple by Avery, an RBI base hit by Grissom, and it's 5-1. Boy, what a difference it makes when your pitcher can hit. And the triple starts at least a 1-run rally with 2 out here in the third.
This is a hanging splitter from Nomo right up in Grissom's eyes. You can see that dead spin coming your way, but it doesn't reach the living room as Grissom intercepts.
Dumps it into right, RBI number 30. Not a bad total for a leadoff hitter, and now he's on at first. The batter is Lemke, who walked and was involved in the triple play back in the first. Ball 1. The triple play turned by the Dodgers defense in the first inning. The 4th triple play turned this season in the big leagues. First in the National League. The White Sox have turned 1. The A's have, as have the Royals. 2 out with Grissom at first, and now a 1-1 count on Lemke.
Even with the Braves trailing by 4 runs, Mark Lemke has taken 2 fastballs to give Grissom a chance to steal. The fake break by Grissom the last time up. Remember, Nomo has a very difficult time holding runners close.
Grissom, when he was younger, led the National League in stolen bases. Did so in 91 and 92 with Montreal. Stole 76 in 91, then 78 in 92. That is through the right side. Grissom will turn but stop. You don't run on Mondesi, and it's 2 on, 2 out. And the Braves making some noise here in the third with 2 out.
Fastball count, and Lemke gets a fastball and uses that hole on the right side to drill it by Delino to Shields.
Nomo has an above-average fastball, but scouts will tell you it's a straight fastball.
It's imperative. It's what pitchers call the four-seamer. It is straight. It's more effective high, and he must stay ahead in the count so he can use that pitch right there.
Well, he falls behind with the split-fingered pitch to Chipper Jones, ball one. Jones was the one who popped into the triple play his first time up, but he has driven in 44, hit 10 home runs. Chance for the Braves to jump back into this game. 2 on, 2 out. 1 run home for Atlanta. What a rip. And a 1-ball, 1-strike count. You do not run on Raul Mondesi. He has a cannon for an arm. He has a cannon on his arm, tattooed on his right arm, with a baseball exploding out of the mouth of that cannon. He has as good an arm as anybody in the game today.
Exploding out of his bicep.
Put together. 2 on, 2 out. 1-1 to Jones. Out in front, strike 2. Hideo Nomo has been anything but dominating the first 3 innings here today. The triple play helped him in the first. Had a 1-2-3 second inning, but the pitcher started this rally with a 2-out triple. Hits by Grissom and Lemke, and now a 1-2 count on Chipper Jones. Inning over. Out in front, and Jones strikes out first. Strikeout of the day for Hideo Nomo. Got him with the splitter. Braves get a run. They trail by 4. Dodgers lead is now 4, 5-1 as we move into the 4th inning. In the background, the new Olympic Stadium, the Olympic Park, which will be renamed, and next year the Atlanta Braves will slip on in their new digs.
Renamed and renovated too.
It is going to undergo some major changes to be ready for baseball. Hitting it off is Castro. Pops one back here and quickly behind on the count 0-2. Coming up in the bottom of the 9th inning, Tim and I will award today's Chevrolet Player of the Game. Maybe it'll be Juan Castro, who started that triple play back in the first inning. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Castro, who singled, which really helped that 5-run rally for the Dodgers in the 3rd. 1-2 from Avery. Barely missed. It'll be Castro, then Nomo, then DeShields. Two-two pitch. Had him reaching to the shortstop, Blauser. 1 out.
This part of the stadium right here will be removed. Our understanding is that the temporary bleachers will be removed, about 35,000, and instead of an 85,000 seat stadium, the Braves will play in a stadium that houses about 48, 49,000.
Yeah, between 45 and 50,000, which is typical for new ballparks that are going up now. Going to take some of those seats away, which is behind that home plate area. A bank of those seats will be taken out. Bautista couldn't get to it. But people say, who have been through it, that is going to be on par with Camden Yards in Baltimore and right there with all the new stadiums that are going up around baseball.
And Jacobs Field in Cleveland, and that's where we'll be next week.
The Yankees and the Indians. Here, the Braves and the Dodgers so far, mostly L.A. They lead 5-1. Top of the 4th inning, 1 out, nobody on, and the 0-2 to Nomo for Avery. That's strikeout number 4. And now with 2 out, nobody on, back to the top of the order to Shields. Something off speed from Avery got Nomo there. 4 strikeouts for Steve. A rough and long 3rd inning. 5 runs on 3 hits. And to Shields up, he's 1 out of 2. 2-run single and a run scored his last time up. Average at 245. And trying to keep this 4th inning alive for Roger Cedeno, who waits on deck. In at at the knees. 1 ball, 1 strike. Good breaking pitch for strike 2.
People who may not have seen this game will look at the box score tomorrow and say, 5 runs. Must have been a lot of power in that inning. But it was the execution by the Dodgers twice with the bunt that made the difference. And the Braves, with the throwing error, a key error by Steve Avery, when they didn't have the rotation play on, Chipper Jones backing up toward third. So those 3 elements added mightily to the 5 runs the Dodgers scored in the third.
1 and 2 on to Shields, now 2 and 2. Braves defense ranked 9th in the National League, now with 57 errors. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Shields trying to stay alive, trying to cut down on those strikeouts, trying to be the Dodger leadoff hitter. Roger Cedeno, the number 2 hitter these days, waiting on deck. 2 out, nobody on. 2-2 pitch. Spoiled a good one.
That type of defensive swing is how you cut down on strikeouts. You take a different approach. You don't have to change your swing, just change your approach.
Same there, and still 2 and 2. Tough task for DeShields today, facing the left-hander Avery. His last time up, a big base hit up the middle to drive home 2. Into shallow left center. Who wants it? Grissom. And the inning is over. Avery's retired the side in order in 3 of the 4 innings. That 3rd inning killed him and the Braves. Dodgers lead by 4. Dodgers leading 5-1 as we get into the bottom of the 4th inning. Braves will have the heart of their order, 4, 5, and 6. This is the NHK broadcast going back to Japan.
でもこのブレーブズをね、これ地元の放送局が私たちのことを紹介してくれていますね。
We've never sounded better.
でもブレーブズ相手勝たないと。
Hideo Nomo. It's no coincidence that they're here when Hideo Nomo pitches.
マグリフは今日はライトライナー1つ。高橋さん手を振ってください、どうぞ。
Thank you.
I caught that last sentence. It said, Happy Father's Day, Joe Buck.
Is that what that was?
That's exactly what it was. You're big over there. You know that.
I took it as them saying Fred McGriff, a chance for a triple crown in the National League in the top 10 in homers, RBIs, and average. Hideo Nomo trying to take care of him. Falling behind 2-1.
Reason I say that, folks, this is the first Father's Day that Joe Buck will have a chance to say Happy Father's Day or to respond to that statement.
I will, but if the kid says that to me, I'm going to be scared. 2 balls.
11 days old, Natalie Elizabeth. Nice going.
Thank you.
You and Annie?
I didn't take care of the tough part. Ann took care of the hard part. 2 balls, 2 strikes on McGriff. Braves down by 4 here in the 4th inning. And a big out for Nomo as he strikes out McGriff. 2nd strikeout for Hideo Nomo. Back to Hollywood, here's Chip Carey. Chip.
And indeed, Joe, happy Father's Day to you. A happy Father's Day perhaps for the Yankees as well, as they have tied this game at Yankee Stadium against the Indians in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Paul O'Neill with a sacrifice fly, his 40th RBI, scores Andy Fox. It's 2-2 in the 4th at Yankee Stadium. Back to you in Atlanta.
Thank you, Chip. Good game there. 2 first-place teams going at it. Cleveland trying to fend off the White Sox, and the Yankees trying to hold back Baltimore. Meanwhile, here, the Dodgers looking for 2 wins in the first 3 games of this 4-game series in Atlanta. They lead it 5-1. And Klesko now with a 1-ball, 1-strike count. What's going on in the AL East? The Yankees out in front. 11 games over the 500 mark. The Orioles have been 2 games back for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now. And the Red Sox, after that slow start, playing a little better, but tough to make up for those early season troubles. Still 10 back. Nomo had Klesko out in front, 1 and 2. McGriff struck out. Just low with a fastball, 2-2.
One of the big reasons for Baltimore slumping recently is because Roberto Alomar's all the way down to, what, 392?
That's right. He's slumping. 2-2 to Klesko. Right down the middle. Back-to-back strikeouts for Nomo. That's now 3. The last 3 hitters he has faced in the 3rd and 4th.
After just missing with the fastball, Nomo comes back with a splitter right down the pipe.
Back-to-back strikeouts of McGriff and Klesko, and with 2 out, nobody on. Nomo works to Jeff Blauser. Ball 1. In the 5th inning, we will certainly have a treat for you. A visit live here in the booth with Brett Butler. 2-0 now on Blauser. Braves trailing by 4 here in the 4th inning. And Nomo just starting to get untracked. Had a slow 1st inning. 1-2-3 second. Gave up a triple to Avery with 2 out. An RBI hit by Grissom in the 3rd. And now a 2-out hit by Blauser here in the 4th. And the Braves looking for more 2-out magic. Blauser on, and that keeps the inning alive for Eddie Perez. Perez, an interesting story. Eddie now the backup catcher. Those duties last year were handled by Charlie O'Brien, who's now with Toronto. Perez as a starter hitting .380. And lately he has been the catcher every time Steve Avery goes to the mound. And there are rumblings that with the struggles of Greg Maddux, who is off to a 5-5 start, Perez may take over and be the catcher for Greg Maddux, who last year primarily worked at Charlie O'Brien. That should stay playable for Flowers. And after the 2-out hit by Blauser, Perez fouls out. Hideo Nomo settling down, and after 4 in Atlanta, the Dodgers lead 5-1. We get into the 5th inning. It's a 5-1 score. The Dodgers out in front. Happy birthday, Brett Butler.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
All right. How old?
39.
39 years old.
39 years old, yeah.
You have a get-together at your house tonight with both teams represented, right?
Well, my wife thought there was only going to be a few Dodgers show up, but it seems like everybody's coming, and then I'm real close with Smoltz and Greg McMichael, and they'll show up too, so it's going to be a little party, a little get-together back. Just a few of us, 60, I guess, something like that.
Roger Cedeno leads it off here, and I know that Roger Cedeno has been your protege. There's been a lot made of the work that you've done to try to help him improve as a big league player.
Well, I think initially he was confused on my approach. You know, I came up to Roger and I said, you know, Roger, I want to do everything I can to help you take my job. I'm not going to give it to you, but I'm going to do everything I can to help you so that when I'm gone, you'll be able to step in and do the job. And being from the Dominican Republic, he's kind of got that mentality that you have to work. It's to, so to speak, not walk off the island. You've got to work to get off the island to try to support your family and stuff, and that individualism has a tendency to come out. He understands it. He knew I cared about him, and he's worked very, very hard.
0-2 the count as Avery delivers low and away. Your locker is with the Dodgers everywhere they go. They keep the locker packed with your equipment ready for your return.
Well, I was really surprised, but just the love and affection that the organization has shown, along with everybody else in the country, it's just been amazing. And to them, it's just an inspiration for them. They think, hey, we need you back. We want you to come back. And that's why I showed up in L.A. the other day when they didn't expect me, just to give them a little boost to let them know I was doing all right.
It's an inspiration for them, but I would imagine after being diagnosed with cancer early last month, it's got to be an enormous inspiration for you to get around the ball club, get around the ballpark, and remember what you're fighting to get back to.
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to Karros before batting practice today, and he says, Golly, this is strange. I'm talking to you like there's nothing wrong. It looks like you should have your uniform on and out there playing. I feel the same way. My neck's a little tight from the surgery. My throat feels a little bit better. But I'm starting radiation for 6 weeks, so we really don't know what's going to happen. But, yeah, I sure miss it.
Cedeno fouls one down the right side. Batista can't get to it, and it's still a 2-2 count.
Realistically, what will determine whether you can return to play or not either this year or next year, Brett?
Well, the doctors say that there's a slim to no shot that I can come back and play. But I know with any other injury, they say those kind of things with, I think, a little cautiousness. For me, 6 weeks of radiation, I was going down to Mexico for maybe 2 or 3 weeks to try to build up my immune system because that's what I need to do. That's one reason why the cancer was there. And so what I've got to do is say, okay, let's see how my body feels after the 6 weeks of radiation, after working out a little bit, and see if I really do have the ability to play at a major league level at that time. And if I can, I'll try. But if I can't, I'm not going to fool myself and come back and try to play.
Broadcasting booth still open?
Well, I tell you what, guys, I need a job. I need something. I got nothing right now.
You're doing a great job already. Cedeno flies to center, and the batter is Mike Piazza. Let's start talking about the Dodgers as Piazza grounds a base hit up the middle. The right knee for Piazza has got to be a concern.
Absolutely. Tommy's being very cautious with Mike. He took off a few days, and he wanted to feel a little bit better because, let's face it, he's the cornerstone to the ball club, and everybody kind of looks to him to lift up the club offensively along with Eric Karros. And every once in a while, he has to take a day or two off to do this. Somewhere down the road, obviously, he'll get some surgery or something to try to repair that. Look at Dalton. He's done it. Can come back, but got to have a little cautiousness in here.
1 on, 1 out for Karros, who takes a fastball for a strike. And in your absence, as it would be for any team who had you and then lost you, the Dodgers still looking for that leadoff hitter. Leadoff hitters are really a hot commodity these days in baseball. They're tough to find.
Well, I think it's the mindset of a leadoff man. You have to have a guy who has the ability to take pitches, who isn't afraid to get deep in the count, and then able to flip the ball to left field or right field, depending on what the situation is. Delino DeShields, for us, has a tendency to be a free swinger. He does that. Cedeno gets a little bit scared when he gets 2 strikes on him, and that's just the growing pains of a young player. So they're still working at it. Bop has an eye. Bop is his nickname. Delino DeShields does have an idea of what's going on. Every once in a while, though, he tries to drop the head and pull the ball a little bit more than he should instead of just getting base hits. But the key to that is just getting on base, and these guys both need to work on that.
You actually worked on that responsibility initially with the Atlanta Braves, right?
Yeah, I tried to anyway. You know, when I was in Atlanta years and years ago, that was the way. Sonny Jackson worked with me a great deal back then about the mindset and how to do it. Jerry Royster also, even though Jerry was more of a bench player, the mindset on what you're supposed to do as a leadoff man, and that's really where I learned it and then tried to show with these guys.
You look at a guy like Ricky Henderson, who is hitting in the low 200s, but he's drawn 60 walks. Here's another double play. The line drive to second, Lemke over to first for the double play. So the Dodgers turn a triple play in the first inning, and now a line drive for a double play turned by the Braves. Brett Butler will stay put. We'll talk to him in the bottom of the 5th. Dodgers lead by 4.
Saturday Baseball is brought to you by the new Dodge. We're thinking ahead. By 7-Eleven. Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. By Pizza Hut, home of the new chicken-topped pizzas. And by Fruit of the Loom, maker of really, really comfortable clothes.
Back in Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium, the Dodgers lead 5-1. We are into the bottom of the 5th inning, and as a tribute to Brett Butler, quite a few players are wearing the number 22. That is Raul Mondesi, who has a tribute to Roberto Clemente on the right side and Brett Butler on the left.
21 right there, 22 right there.
That's not bad company, Brett Butler.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not even in that company. I'll guarantee you that. But Raul, being the right fielder that he is, I tell you what, he has an arm that goes along with that man that he's talking about, and he's a tremendous player.
But you've always been the kind of player who's been an overachiever, a guy who has worked hard, a guy who has worked on bunting. I don't know if there's a better bunter in baseball than Brett Butler. That's something you take pride in.
Well, to me, it's kind of my mark, I guess. When I was a kid growing up, I bunted a lot. When I got ready to get to the big leagues, they say, you're bunting too much. And I said, okay, fine. And I continued to bunt because I knew what my limitations were and I knew what I needed to do, and that was to get on base. So I worked very hard at it. I try to teach these kids the same thing. And they're learning, and there's a lot more in the game that should be able to do it.
First up is Danny Bautista. He's the number 8 hitter. Then Avery. Then back to the top of the order, Marquise Grissom. Bautista 0 for 1. And behind to the count 0-1. Talking with Brett Butler. Tell me about the hat real quick, the Bugsy hat.
Well, basically, I surprised the guys on Saturday. I was in Mexico seeing a doctor, and I came up, had a day off, and decided to come up and see them, to make them relax a little bit, to say, hey, you know, I feel all right, I look okay, and just go out there and play and try to encourage them a little bit. So they surprised me on Thursday. They came in, I walked in the clubhouse, and they all had these hats. Our clubhouse guy, David Wright, had them all made up, him and Neil Glickman back in Atlanta, and it was just a tribute to me.
Hold that thought. Say this. Let's go to Chip Carey in Hollywood. Say that. Chip Carey in Hollywood.
Cut me off.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot at Yankee Stadium. In the top of the fourth, New York native Manny Ramirez delights friends and family at the Yankee Stadium crowd. A 2-run homer to left scores Jim Thome, 15 homers, 48 RBIs. But it's now a 4-3 Indian lead in New York. Back to you guys in Atlanta.
Thank you, Chip. Avery, who tripled his first time up, pops up into right for Mondesi. 2 down. See, I give you your chance to add to your resume tape as a broadcaster, and no.
Well, I apologize for that, but I can talk about Avery the first time he was up. That's a perfect example of Billy Ashley as a young player having to learn and understand the game. We're up by 5 runs. There's a ball hit out there questionable with 2 outs. Instead of playing it on the hot, only having a single out of it, he dives for the ball, misses it. Avery ends up with a triple. Marquise comes in, drives him in, giving him a run. That's something that you have to, as a young player, have an understanding about.
And I know it's something that you, as a team leader, I saw you yesterday talking to some of the younger players, Castro and some of the others, about facing a guy like Smoltz last night or Avery today.
It's a lot different. John's a lot different pitcher than Avery is. John's going to come out at you with power. He's got tremendous stuff. Avery's going to kind of bob and weave a little bit. He's going to throw you a lot of changeups, a little off the plate with the fastball, cutters inside just to get you off the plate. It's one of those things with Avery. You can get on the plate and try to take part of the plate away from him. With John, you just got to look for the ball.
And there is almost no advice you can give any hitter about how to face John Smoltz right now the way he's going. 13 wins in a row.
That's exactly right. In the past, John had a tendency to throw 2 great pitches, and then he would choke the ball a little bit, trying too hard, throw the ball right down the middle, and that's where he was giving up his hits and his runs. Now, he's got the confidence, he's hitting spots, and he's doing a tremendous job.
It's a 2-1 count on Grissom with 2 out, nobody on. And he checks on the shortstop, Castro. Brett Butler, radiation begins this week. We are all of us at Fox, all of us in baseball, can't wait for you to get back in a Dodger uniform. Best of luck.
Thanks a lot, fellas. I appreciate being here.
That is Brett Butler. He wants to be a broadcaster. This guy can talk. We are through 5 innings. It's 5-1 LA. Dodgers leading 5-1. We get into the 6th inning. First up, Raul Mondesi. And that's strike 1. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent. Major League Baseball. Mondesi digging in, hitting in the 5 spot, 0 for 1 with a walk. Behind on the count, 0-2. Mondesi, then Blowers, then Ashley. Anybody gets on, the number 8 hitter, Juan Castro. 0-2. Pretty good rip on 0-2. Avery got away with a pitch there.
Tried to come inside to Mondesi and didn't get it inside enough. I mean, if a guy reaches out and hits a ball off the end of the bat, or you saw a guy off and he gets one of those little flares, there's nothing you can do about that. But you have to make him reach with the count, no balls, and 2 strikes.
Made him reach there, and the pop-up is out of play. Mentioned it's Brett Butler's 39th birthday. Happy birthday to Brett Butler. Flashed it on the board, and every time he walks down to his seat, which is, by the way, right by the Dodger dugout, there's a standing ovation by those fans in that area. How about this birthday, June 15th? Pretty darn good hitters born on this day.
As a matter of fact, only 2 days on the year are there more prolific hitters born. November 26th is the 2nd most productive day for hitters. And guess what's number 1? Christmas Day, December 25th.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
So June 15th, the 3rd most productive day as far as hitters are concerned. Over 16,000 hits collected by those with birthdays on June 15th.
Must have had a long plane flight to Atlanta.
Very lonely life, Jeff.
2 balls, 2 strikes. And Mondesi shoots one to center for Grissom. Can he get to it? Cannot. Up against the wall. Mondesi, extra bases, digging for 3. Leading off, he's got a triple. Mondesi triples into deep left center. Marquise Grissom plays shallow, couldn't get back to that fly ball off the bat of Mondesi, And the extra base hit to start the 6th.
Playing shallow and shifted into right center, too. The changeup by Avery. And with Mondesi's speed and power, he combines the two for his second triple of the year.
So now he's at third with nobody out as the Dodgers look to add to their lead here in the 6th inning. Flowers, Ashley, and Castro will have their chances. Braves bring the infield in for the play at the plate. And a little flare into left center field. Placed perfectly by Flowers. In to score is Mondesi. And it is a 6-1 Dodger lead. Didn't get a lot of it, got enough of it, and Avery's had a rough day.
Off the end of the bat, looked like the curveball. Right off the end of the bat, Flowers with RBI number 28 on the year, a second of the day.
They say so often, if you're going to get beat with your best, and that is not Steve Avery's best pitch.
Well, of course, you have a man on third, nobody out. The chances of Mondesi not scoring are great. And I think Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach, out there to talk to Steve and giving Brad Klontz a chance to warm up. That's a tough thing for a pitching coach. I mean, pitchers know that the pitching coach is out there to buy time for the guy warming up. And that guy is Brad Klontz for the Braves.
Submarine-style right-hander getting loose for Atlanta, and their bullpen is Billy Ashley steps in. A triple, an RBI base hit. And Ashley, who is 0 for 1 with a walk and a run scored, all that came in the 3rd inning, pops it up. Klesko, who just went in to get the glasses. Glasses down, glove up, makes the catch. 1 out. So Ashley 0 for 2. He does not advance the runner. Flowers still at first. 1 out now.
Ryan Klesko fighting the sun with the glasses on. Think how bad it would have been had he not gone to get the sunglasses. When Mazzoni went out to talk to Avery, that gave Ryan a chance to go in and get his cheaters.
Now 1 on, 1 out. And the batter is Juan Castro. Snap throw, and the runner, Flowers, back in time. Juan Castro is a shortstop, a prospect you don't hear a lot about. Perez made it close down at first, but Flowers back ahead of the tag. Castro is a very good defensive player. Showed us that back in the 1st inning, starting that triple play. Now Flowers running, line drive, double play. What in the world's going on here? That is the 2nd one turned by the Braves defense here this afternoon. Dodgers have turned a triple play. Braves 2 line drive double plays. Dodgers lead by 5, middle of the 6th. Flying high over the ballpark today is Kroger's Spirit of Atlanta. She is the world's largest blimp, making her inaugural appearance over Atlanta this week. She is that blimp. Our thanks to Kroger. As we mentioned early on, it will help out during the Olympics, help out the police force, try to keep things under control here in Atlanta. Great crowd here today, packed house at Fulton County Stadium. And Lemke leads it off. Braves have to get to work. They trail by 5 here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Strike 1 on Lemke, who's been on base twice with a walk and a single. Right guys coming up to do something about this score. Lemke, Jones, McGriff. 0-1 the count. Strike 2. Nomo has struck out 4, walked only 1, and allowed 5 hits. Ball 1. Dodgers have out-hit the Braves 6-5. The Braves have the game's only error, and it hurt. Error by Avery back in that 5-run 3rd inning. 1-2 pitch. to Shields. 1 out.
Biggest play in this game so far in the first inning, with a count 3-2 to Chipper Jones. Marquise Grissom at second, Mark Lemke at first. Both runners running, and Chipper Jones with a little flare into left center field. Watch how quickly Juan Castro reacted to DeShields and back to Carroll's triple play in the first inning. Talked about Castro, and that gave you a pretty good idea about how effective he was and what a good defensive shortstop he is when he turned and threw blindly to DeShields at second.
Gagne has been out of the lineup for nearly a month. And Castro has filled in very well. Jones to the first baseman, Carroll. What a play. Little juggle and a flip, 2 out. Carroll's made that look easy after not coming away with it cleanly, 2 down. Chipper's 0 for 3.
Nice play by Carroll. If you don't succeed the first time, try again. And he did. Good play.
Nomo there waiting for it. And with 2 out, nobody on, the batter will be Fred McGriff. 3, 4, and 5 hitters for the Braves today against Nomo are hitless. A combined 0 for 7. Hard. Griff still hitting .329. And now 1 ball, 1 strike count. Griff is lined to right, struck out. Nomo trying to retire. Lemke, Jones, and McGriff in order. Had a rough first inning, Nomo did. The triple play helped him out since then. Outside of the 2-out triple by Avery, he's been about perfect. Here is today's Menon trivia question.
Give it to us.
Who is the only player to hit 50-plus home runs for both the Dodgers and the Braves? One, 2 on McGriff, struck him out, and for Nomo, that is 5 strikeouts through 6 innings. The answer next inning. It's a 6-1 Dodger lead through 6. We'll be back to Atlanta after this from your local station. There's our introduction. That means it's time to go to work in the 7th. And right away, Hideo Nomo is the first out. Grounded out to third. Chipper Jones took care of it. And Nomo is now 0 for 2. How about the answer to our Menon trivia question? The only player to hit 50-plus home runs for both the Dodgers and the Braves. Who is it? Dusty Baker.
He was the on-deck batter when Henry Aaron hit home run number 715 in this ballpark.
And today is his birthday. His favorite color is blue. What else do you need to know about him? There's number 715, the billboard commemorating number 715. Dusty Baker, of course, now the manager of the Giants. San Francisco, a 500 club so far at 32-32. 2.5 games out behind the Padres, taking on Houston today at 3 Comp Park. Brad Klontz getting loose. For the Braves in their bullpen, this is the 101st pitch of the day for Steve Avery, and it's a strike. 2-2 on DeShields. Delino 1 out of 3. A 2-run single and a run scored back in the 3rd. Blauser takes his time. 2 out. The Braves in the bottom of the 7th inning will have Klesko, Blauser, and Eddie Perez. Try to do something about this score. They will at least be trailing by 5. Nomo has been economical through 6. Roger Cedeno takes ball 1.
You eliminate that one horrible inning, the 3rd inning for Avery, and he's pitched a good ball game, but that inning was riddled with mistakes. The leadoff walk, the throwing error by Steve Avery, and the 2 good bunts by the Dodgers playing little ball and doing it very well.
2-0 pitch. 2-1. Cedeno at the plate, 0 for 2 with the sacrifice. One of those 2 good bunts in that 3rd inning. Dodgers got 5 runs. Added a run in the 6th inning on a leadoff triple by Mondesi and an RBI base hit by Flowers, who has driven in 2 here today. 3rd baseman Jones to his left. Dodgers go in order. Time to stretch here in Atlanta. Again, Klesko, Blauser, Perez coming up for the Braves. Bottom of the 7th, they trail by 5. Here's our 7-11 game summary. The Dodgers in their first triple play since 1949 in the 1st inning. That really turned the fortunes around for Hideo Nomo, who is in early trouble. Dodgers got 5 runs in the 3rd inning. An error by Avery added to the Dodgers' success. Grissom has a couple of hits in 3 at-bats, including an RBI. And those lethal weapons we told you about at the start of the day, well, they're 0 for 8 with 4 strikeouts. That against Hideo Nomo. Nomo has struck out 6. I had said 5 last inning. It's 6. It'll be Klesko, Blauser, and Perez trying to do something about this 5-run Dodger lead. Tommy Lasorda, longtime manager of the Dodgers. Bobby Cox, not only longtime manager of Atlanta, but during his tenure as general manager from 1985 until 1990, he brought many of the star players to this Atlanta team. Mike Piazza dinged on the right shoulder on that foul tip.
Mike already has the sore right knee, and this one had to smart. Foul tip right off the corner of the shoulder.
And an 0-1 count on Klesko. Ryan 0 for 2. Now strike 2. As far as managers are concerned, Tommy Lasorda has been around 20 years with the Dodger organization. Bobby Cox has been manager of this Atlanta ball club since 1990.
And he will continue to be the manager of this club if his health remains stable until 1999, just recently signing an extension of 3 years.
1 and 2 on Klesko, leading it off here in the 7th inning. Hard hit, diving stop Karros, and the flip, 1 out. This Dodger defense much better, as we told you at the top of the day, and Karros has made 2 very tough plays look rather easy.
Stop the rally before it starts, and this is the best way to do it with a diving play like Eric Karros just made. Nice play.
Karros with the extension to his right. He has become a very good defensive first baseman, and credit Nomo with not standing around gazing at the play. And now the training staff will come out and look at Hideo Nomo. Did he hurt something going over to the bag? Charlie Strasser, the trainer, out to check on the right knee or leg area of Hideo Nomo.
Talking to Charlie before the game, and he's a terrific guy, and he asked us to say hello to Bill Buehler. Bill Buehler, the trainer for the Dodgers for 46 years, just inducted to the Training Hall of Fame in a ceremony down in Orlando. Nomo appears to be all right, but he could have injured a knee going over to cover first base. Looked like his right foot had too much of the bag. That's a timing play. The one thing you don't want is to have your right foot land in the middle of the bag. Try to just nudge the bag. You see pitchers and first basemen work on that play all spring. Karros made the nice play going to his right, and then Nomo covering had to apply the brakes.
They're going to take Nomo out of this game.
Now, I think it's his right knee.
Hideo Nomo trying to communicate. It looked like facially he was trying to say, I'm all right. But of course, he's tough to understand, the folks out there talking to him, and as a precautionary measure, he is out. Antonio Osuna comes in the 7th.
After looking at the replay from this angle, it appears to be the right ankle of Hideo Nomo as it turns inside on contact with the bag. That's what it appears from that standpoint. You'll notice that the throw from Karros a little high, so he has to go up and then touch the bag, really not knowing where the bag is, and he may have jammed a heel or sprained an ankle slightly. It does not appear to be serious.
With the pitching that the Dodgers have in their bullpen, why take a chance?
Exactly.
Hideo Nomo goes 6 1/3 innings, allows 1 run on 5 hits, walked 1, struck out 6. And he leaves it in good hands. Antonio Osuna, as good a setup reliever as anybody in baseball, especially anybody in the National League. And he throws harder than anyone on this Dodger team.
Well, an interesting thing to keep in mind, Todd Worrell is the closer for the Dodgers, and Antonio Osuna is being groomed to be the future closer. And if Worrell leaves the Dodgers next year, there's Todd. If he leaves them and perhaps seeks too much money, Osuna will be ready to move into that closing role. I think he's capable of doing it right now.
He has done it at times, Osuna has, when Worrell has had a day off. But Antonio's job is to get this game, either finish it off, or if the game gets a little tighter, get it to Todd Worrell. That's his job in the Dodger bullpen.
We talked about Tommy Lasorda. He took over the Dodgers in 1976, September 29th to be exact. He has the longest tenure of any manager or coach. That's of the 113 managers or coaches of North American teams. Tommy Lasorda with the longest tenure, followed by Jim Leyland, Jim Mora of the New Orleans Saints.
He and the Dodgers out in front 6-1, and with 1 out, nobody on, the batter is Jeff Blauser. So you go from facing Hideo Nomo to the harder throwing Antonio Osuna. By the way, the official word that we get on Hideo Nomo is discomfort in his right calf, which no doubt a result of his problems around the bag at first.
Well, I bookended his problem. I said at first it was his knee, then I said it was his ankle, or somewhere in between.
It's in the calf. If we get any further word, we will pass it along on Hideo Nomo. He got the first out of the inning, and now the 1-1 pitch to Blauser from Osuna. High heat, ball 2. Osuna against Blauser with Eddie Perez waiting on deck. Two balls and a strike. Into center field, Cedeno to his right. 2 up, 2 down here in the 7th. In their world, every second counts, and every move could be their last. See why critics are calling LA Firefighters exciting with spectacular special effects. Watch a brand new LA Firefighters Monday at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, right here on Fox.
We were told to save that promo for when a reliever came in the game, right?
Although his job, as it is for the LA Firefighters, put out a fire. However, in this case, there is no fire with which to deal. Instead, Osuna dealing as usual, and a breaking ball is a strike to Eddie Perez. Perez 0 for 2. The number 7 hitter in the Atlanta lineup. 1 ball, 1 strike. Touched on it earlier that Perez has been the catcher for Steve Avery. And with the struggles of Greg Maddux, now a record of 5-5. Some think he may take over behind the plate for Greg Maddux. Take over for Javier Lopez, who has had a difficult time in his major league career calling a game. Little pop up to first. Karros with the catch, and the Braves go quick and easy in the 7th. Nomo started the inning. Osuna finished the inning. And after 7 on a hot day in Atlanta, 6-1 LA. 8th inning, 6-1. The Dodgers still holding down Atlanta. Dodgers bat, and they will send in the heart of their order against a new pitcher. Side arming, submarine style, whatever you want to call him. Brad Klontz takes over. Record of 3-2. Piazza first up. Strike 1.
Brad Klontz leads the National League in appearances. This is his 35th appearance. of the year. When hitters see a pitcher drop down that low, they know he can't throw a breaking ball that goes down. The only thing that can go down with an arm angle like that is the fastball. His first pitch is slider. It can break parallel to the ground, but in order to get a breaking ball to go down, you have to stay on top of it. Now with that delivery, you can't stay on top of anything.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Piazza.
And that was the slider right there that broke parallel to the ground and didn't have the downward movement.
Piazza had a pitch to Rip, fouled it straight back, but in the hole 1 and 2. Yo-yo. Things can tend to get a little boring in the Braves bullpen, although here today things aren't going too well for Atlanta. That's Pedro Bourbon working over the yo-yo down in the Braves bullpen. Piazza the first out here in the 8th.
Pedro, we have come to find out, has a lot of interesting hobbies. Not only yo-yoing is one of them, but he is also the team barber. And his most recent victim, patient, was Brad Klontz, he's got his head shaved. About 2 weeks ago, Brad has a little narrowing of the hair in the forehead, the high forehead.
Why do you look at me when you say that?
Huh? Because I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Talking. Checking. Communication. But anyway, Brad did. He had his head shaved, and he said about every other day he has to put the finishing touches on that scalp of his.
Strike 2. You don't have to be a barber to shave somebody's head. Go down there and shave Brad Klontz's head.
I'm just reporting.
You're merely a journalist.
You can't analyze everything.
And there's the barber. Garrow's quick and easy. 3 pitches, struck him out. 2 down here in the 8th inning. Seriously, what do you grab your glove, you grab your hat, get a pack of seeds, go out in the bullpen and pick up your yo-yo? What's going on here?
Better than your shears.
Yeah, that's true. So Klontz pitching with 2 out, nobody on, and dealing with Raul Mondesi. Mondesi took an intentional walk back in that 5-run 3rd inning for the Dodgers, and then tripled to lead off in the 6th and scored on a base hit by Mike Blowers. If Pedro can do any tricks down in the bullpen, like walk the dog.
Walk the dog, yeah.
Put it in that cradle thing.
Rocking the cradle.
That's it. That's what I was looking for. Around the world. Strike 2. Oh, yeah. Around the world.
Loop to loop.
2 out, nobody on. 0-2 the count. Mondesi with the bases empty. What a good inning for Brad Klontz. His first inning of work gets Piazza on the ground out. Strikes out Karros and Mondesi. Now you'd show me something if you put the yo-yo up. 6-1 Dodgers. Back in Atlanta, a 6-1 Dodger lead. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. Braves have to get to work. Well, how about the work of Pedro Bourbon? There's the bald head, the shaved head. And Pedro Bourbon, after working over the yo-yo, is starting to get loose down the right field line for Atlanta. Pitcher spot due up second here in the 8th inning. Put the yo-yo down, Pedro. It's time to warm up. And he's getting loose down the right field line. Leading it off is Todd Hollinsworth. Takes over in left field. Danny Bautista batting in the 8th spot. 3 out of 16 with the Atlanta Braves after being traded from Detroit. Talk about living right. A Tiger one day, a Brave the next. Osuna came on in the 7th inning, got Blauser and Perez. Now the 0-1 to Bautista. Can't catch up to that pitch. Strike 2.
Now there has been such a difference in the Braves attack. As you look at Mark Guthrie warming for the Dodgers, you are not going to replace a David Justice unless you do it outside the organization. For that reason, scuttlebutt has it that Joe Carter of the Toronto Blue Jays could be here within the next month. What an addition he would be to the Atlanta Braves. Well, they've got to fill that hole, don't you think, Joe?
I definitely think so. Fall into that category of a hired gun.
Yep.
Where the Toronto Blue Jays, if they want to trade him, could get some prospects. Trade Joe Carter. He's in the last year of his contract and send him to Atlanta. But there definitely is a hole in right field for the Braves after the injury to Justice. Bautista has struck out 3 times today. With David Justice, what you would expect, 25 RBIs, no errors out of that right field position, and David was hitting .321. And without Justice out in right field, the Braves haven't been doing much. In today's right fielder, Bautista, 0 for 3. And the first out here in the 8th inning. Justice off to one of his best starts ever. Not for the rest of the year.
And how could the Braves entice the Toronto Blue Jays to give up such a quality player like Joe Carter? They've got Wesley Helms, Andrew Jones, and Ron Wright playing for the same Class A team. And all 3 terrific prospects. As a matter of fact, Andrew Jones is, from what I've heard, is the best prospect in baseball.
It's at 17 home runs already in single A. 1 out, nobody on. A 1-1 count on Dwight Smith, one of the best pinch hitters in baseball. Hit a pinch hit home run here last night. Hit that off Chan Ho Park. Now ahead in the count, 2-1. As far as left-handed pinch hitters go in the National League, Dwight Smith, John Vanderwall of Colorado, 1-2. 2 balls and a strike. Cannot catch up. 2-2 as Osuna is bringing heat coming into today's action. Opponents hitting only .185 against Antonio Osuna.
Ball just explodes out of his hand.
He has retired all 3 Atlanta hitters he has faced. 2-2 pitch. Goodbye. Back-to-back strikeouts and 4 in a row. 94-mile-an-hour fastball out of the hand of Osuna.
And on the corner at that.
Talk about a perfect pitch. Yep. 2 out, nobody on. Back to the top of the lineup. Here's Marquise Grissom, 2 out of 3. Ball 1.
There are 76 Grissoms in the Atlanta phone book. And I say that because about half of them are related to Marquise. He has 39 nieces and nephews. Second youngest, or next to the youngest, 15 children. His mom and dad are still alive and in retirement now. And Marquise saying that that's what the family has pulled for, that they're to pool the money and allow his parents to retire. And they've done just that.
They're a big part of the 8th sellout of the year here at Fulton County Stadium today. 49,726. Watching is Grissom. Now has a 2-1 count.
13 of his 14 siblings live in the Atlanta area. So almost all the Grissoms here in Atlanta probably related to Marquise.
And if they're not, they show up at the will call window with their driver's license and say Marquise was supposed to leave me tickets.
Of course.
2-1 to Grissom. Now 3-1 from Osuna. Antonio came in the 7th inning when Hideo Nomo left with discomfort in his right calf. Osuna got Blauser. Fly to center. Perez popped up. Back-to-back strikeouts of Bautista and Dwight Smith. Now the 3-1 to Grissom. Should end the inning. Cedeno, Castro, neither one won it. Neither one catch it. And that's got to be Roger Cedeno's ball in center field. He didn't take charge, and Castro couldn't get there. It falls in for a gift single for Grissom.
This ball had too much hang time for a player with Cedeno's speed not to get to it. And now by the time Castro surrounds it, the ball drops harmlessly, and it's got to be a hit for Marquise Grissom, even though that ball has got to be caught.
That keeps the 8th inning alive, and the number 2 hitter, Mark Lemke, steps in. Into center field, Cedeno can't get to this one either. And it's 2 on, 2 out. And now with a switch hitting third baseman Chipper Jones coming up, the Dodgers may go back to their bullpen.
It's not the hits the opposition gets that infuriates you. It's the hits that they shouldn't get that just drives a manager up a wall. And Dave Wallace, and that looks like it's going to be all for Osuna, and Antonio has every reason to be upset. He should be out of the inning.
The blue pit to keep it alive, a base hit by Lemke. They'll turn Chipper Jones around, make him bat right-handed against the new lefty Mark Guthrie here in the 8th. Well, the crew on Fox Saturday Baseball next week will be highlighting baseball superstitions. Go around, take the travel through baseball, and you run across some great stories of superstitious players in this game. Next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, Paul O'Neill and the Yankees take on Kenny Lofton and the Indians. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central, or 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and time in your area. Steve Lyons will do a piece on superstitious baseball players. That's next week on Fox Saturday Baseball. 2 on here with 2 out for Chipper Jones. That is up the middle. That'll bring home Grissom. Lemke heads to third, and it's a 6-2 Dodger lead. Right-handed this season, Chipper Jones is hitting .279 with 3 homers and now 11 RBIs, and that didn't take long.
First pitch, fastball outside from Guthrie, and Jones almost hit the left foot of Mark. Now the thunder rolls in for the Braves. McGriff, and if he gets on, Klesko.
That's why the Dodgers brought in the left-hander Guthrie. Not so much just for Chipper Jones to turn him around, but for this hitter, Fred McGriff. And the man on deck, Klesko. First and third, 2 out. Pretty good rip. Strike 1. Runners on at first and third. McGriff could make this a game. Fred has hit 17 home runs. Number 18 would make this a 1-run game as Todd Worrell has to heat it up in the Dodger bullpen. Runners at the corners, 2 out. And a ball and a strike on McGriff. You would have to figure, Tim, that Guthrie not only has McGriff, but also has Klesko, even though Todd Worrell getting loose in the Dodger bullpen. 1-1 on McGriff. Down the left field line, slicing foul. It'll get out of play for strike 2.
I think if Mark is fortunate enough to get McGriff out, he'll probably pitch to Klesko to open the bottom of the 9th, and then they'll bring Worrell in.
It's up to McGriff to make this a game here in the 8th inning. A blue hit by Grissom, a base hit by Lemke. The pitching changed, and the RBI hit by Jones. First and third, 2 out. 1-2 from Guthrie. Got it, and the inning is over. Guthrie comes in, gives up a hit, but gets McGriff to end the 8th. 1 run on 3 hits, a couple left. Braves have left 5. They trail by 4. 9th inning, final frame here in Atlanta. Dodgers out in front 6-2. And the new pitcher is a left-hander, Pedro Borbon. Record of 1-0. Talented left-hander and part of a very good Atlanta bullpen. First pitch is strike to Mike Blowers. Hollinsworth will follow, and then Juan Castro, the 6, 7, and 8 hitters for L.A. here in the 9th. Dodgers lead 6-2. A ball and a strike. Flowers has driven in 2 runs this afternoon with a sac fly to right and an RBI single, giving him 28 RBIs for the year. Fastball just high, 2-1. Braves bullpen had gone 10 1/3 innings without giving up a run until last night's game, when Wohlers gave up a home run to Mondesi in the ninth. But this Braves bullpen, which goes along nicely with the Braves starting rotation, which goes along with this lineup, that's about as good as it gets here in Atlanta.
To reiterate, the Dodgers and the Braves 1-2 in earned run average in baseball, and they are gifted from top to bottom. Their starters, their middle relievers, and their short men.
2 balls, 2 strikes on Flowers leading off. 3-2. Just to close the book on Hideo Nomo, the official word, a mild strain of the right calf, as a result of problems stepping on the bag on a play in the 7th inning on a feed from Karros. Blauser, another error. He backed up on it, and it went right through him. It's an error, and the 19th of the year for Blauser, who is on pace for 45 for the year.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jeff, that leads the major leagues. Backing up on this ball, and the ball just ate him up with that top spin.
Tim, I know there are times when you have to back up on a ball, but if you can avoid it, you better, because that ball will make a fool out of you.
I think the errors are playing a mind game with Jeff Blauser now. People think that slumps only relate to hitting, but they relate to fielding as well.
Here's Todd Hollandsworth, his first at bat of the day, taking over in the 7th spot for Billy Ashley.
I think Jeff is going through that right now. Of course, he is nursing that bad right ankle. That's not an excuse. That's a fact.
Leadoff man is on for the Dodgers, who already lead 6-2 here in the ninth. Hollandsworth quickly in the hole, 0-2. Hollandsworth was the starter in last night's game for the Dodgers when they took on John Smoltz. Smoltz and Wohlers beat him last night 3-1. Struck him out looking over the outside corner, 1 out. As for Bone, will try to pitch around an error here in the 9th inning.
Left-handers seem to be more effective against left-handed hitting when they drop down than right-handed pitchers are against right-handed hitters when they drop down. Reason for that is that left-handers' front side has a tendency to give, and once that happens, they're dead.
Check on Flowers at first, who was running the last time he was aboard. Batter now is the number 8 hitter, Juan Castro. After Billy Ashley led off with a walk in that 5-run 3rd inning for the Dodgers, Castro got a base hit through the left side, followed by a sacrifice bunt by Nomo. The throw by Avery pulled the first baseman off the bag. A 2-run single by DeShields, and a 2-run double by Karros, a sac fly RBI by Flowers, and it was 5-0. Braves got their run in the bottom of the 3rd inning. 2-out triple by Avery and an RBI base hit by Grissom. Dodgers got a run in the 6th inning, triple by Mondesi, base hit by Blowers. Braves just got a run in the bottom of the 8th inning, driven in by Chipper Jones. 0-2, quickly the count on Juan Castro. After Castro, the hitter will be Mark Guthrie. We'll see that at bat right now. Back-to-back strikeouts of Hollandsworth and Castro. And with 2 out and the runner at first, here comes Mark Guthrie. Long-time American leaguer, Mark Guthrie. Look at this pitch to Castro.
Looked like a splitter from Bourbon out of the strike zone, but most swinging strikeouts are out of the strike zone.
Guthrie takes a ball. This is his first at bat with the Dodgers.
Which leads you to believe it's his first at bat as a major leaguer since he was with Minnesota before.
Not a bad swing there, and the count 1-1. He stays in because Klesko is due to lead off in the bottom of the ninth. Flowers reached on an error to start the inning. He has not moved. And now Bourbon in a spot to strike out the side after the leadoff error.
Might say, well, has a Minnesota Twin reliever ever hit? Yes, Rick Aguilera. As a matter of fact, back in 1991 in Game 3 of the World Series was the last Minnesota hitter. He was the short reliever for the Twins. The Twins had run out of position players, and Aguilera made the last out in the 12th inning of the 91 series.
To the right side, not a bad at bat by Guthrie. Did better than Hollingsworth and Castro. Grounds out to second. Back-to-back strikeouts, then the ground out. Bourbon, a nice job to pitch around the error. Bottom of the ninth inning, 6-2 LA. We're ready for the bottom of the ninth inning. Are the Braves ready? They will send in Klesko, Blauser, and Perez. Against the left-hander, Mark Guthrie, who just grounded out in his second major league at bat. Klesko, first up. He's 0 for 3. Heart of the order, Jones, McGriff, and Klesko. Only one hit so far in 11 at-bats. That's the way to beat these Braves. Strike one, caught the outside corner. Right-handed hitters all over the place on the bench, but you don't pinch hit for Klesko. And a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Guthrie, the left-hander on the mound. Show you the bench because the Dodgers don't have anyone warming up in their bullpen. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bullpen silent for the Dodgers. Klesko, Blauser, Perez due here in the ninth. One ball, 2 strikes on Klesko. 1 out, and a big out as Guthrie does his job to get Ryan Klesko. The heart of the order, 1 for 12 here this afternoon.
Mark Guthrie dropping down to Klesko. See, when that front side gives way right at the hip, then you cannot reach that outside pitch. Good slider from Guthrie.
So 1 out and the base is empty, and the batter will be Blauser. Jeff 1 out of 3. He also committed his 19th error of the season here today, hitting .251. Good pitch in on the hands. That's strike 2. Guthrie's done fine work after coming in and allowing the base hit to Chipper Jones. Struck out McGriff to end the 8th with 2 on. Struck out Klesko and delivered a good pitch jumping in on Blauser. 1 out with the bases empty and an 0-2 count on Blauser. Just missed. One and 2 on Blauser. The shortstop Castro. 2 down. Guthrie has had no problems since taking over in the 8th inning. So with 2 out, nobody on, the last chance for the Braves, Eddie Perez. Perez hitless today, came in .380 as a starter. And with 2 out, nobody on. Little flare into center field, might drop it, will drop. And a 2-out hit for Perez. So Mark Guthrie gives up 2 hits since coming in. And the game continues for Danny Bautista. Bautista trying to avoid his 4th strikeout of the day. Nomo got him a couple of times. Osuna got him in the 8th. Now facing Guthrie here in the 9th with that base hit. Dodger bullpen gets active. Bautista just 3 out of 17 with Atlanta. A 6-2 Dodger lead. Now a 1-1 count. The Dodgers will put pressure, it looks like, on the San Diego Padres, who are about to play at Wrigley Field. Padres came in with a game lead over the Dodgers. Now the 1-1 pitch. And the Dodgers 1 strike away from victory here in Atlanta, trying to take 2 of the first 3 of this series. With 1 to go here tomorrow, they'll have Candiotti on the mound. Runner at first, 2 out. Wooden chase, 2-2.
Tom Candiotti goes against Jason Schmidt to end this series tomorrow.
This would not be a save situation for Mark Guthrie because he allowed the hit to Chipper Jones. But trying to finish it off here in Atlanta nonetheless. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Runner at first, 2 out. And we'll stay right here. Bautista trying to keep it alive. Pinch hitter waits in the on-deck circle. Bautista trying to keep it alive for Mordecai, who's in the on-deck circle. Wouldn't chase it again. 3 balls, 2 strikes. So Guthrie, with a chance to finish off the afternoon, gives up the 2-out hit. And after jumping out in front of Bautista with 2 strikes, runs the count full. And the runner Perez will take off at first. Pretty good rip in the foul ball to keep it going.
Atlanta Braves need base runners, trailing by 4 with 1 on and 2 out here in the 9th.
Guthrie has given up a 2-out hit. Runner at first, 2 down. Runner goes, 3-2 pitch, and will keep it going as Bautista draws a 2-out walk. And now with 2 on, 2 out, and Mordecai coming up. Question is, will we see Todd Worrell?
I think he's ready. And rather than bring Worrell in, should Mordecai get on base, you do a couple of things by bringing him in right now. The Braves would have to go to Tyler Houston, so the Braves would waste a player. Plus, you give a little cushion to Worrell, and that's why the move's going to be made right now. I mean, Guthrie could go ahead and pitch to Mordecai, but once Mordecai was announced, then Tommy Lasorda and Dave Wallace made the move, and Worrell will be the pitcher.
Guthrie got 2 big outs. He ended the 8th inning with a strikeout of McGriff. He started this 9th inning as he struck out Klesko. But the bottom of the order keeps the game alive for Atlanta. A 2-out hit by the number 7 hitter Eddie Perez, followed by the walk to Danny Bautista. And with a 4-run Dodger lead, 2 on, 2 out, Todd Worrell makes his way in from the bullpen. Remember, folks, next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, Paul O'Neill and the New York Yankees take on Kenny Lofton and the Cleveland Indians. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central, or 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Check local listings for the game in your area. That all follows the pregame show. Steve Lyons, Dave Winfield, Chip Carey. They're hard at work getting folks to the late afternoon game. Meanwhile, here in Atlanta, the game continues after a hit and a walk. And a save situation here for Todd Worrell, as he will deal with the number 9 spot in the Atlanta lineup.
Todd leading the National League in saves with 18. Formerly pitched with the St. Louis Cardinals. You may remember him when he was a rookie with the Cardinals, and he faced the Kansas City Royals in the 1985 World Series. Arm problems in the early 90s, and the Dodgers nurtured him back into health to where he is one of the top relievers and short relievers in the game. Jeff Brantley of the Cincinnati Reds is second in saves with 16, followed by Rod Beck and Ricky Bottalico of the Phillies. Rod Beck with the Giants.
So Worrell looking for number 19. Last pitched on the 6th. And he will deal with Tyler Houston. So the Braves do burn a player as Mike Mordecai is announced. Then he is lifted for Tyler Houston, and Todd Worrell takes over with 2 on and 2 out. Tommy Lasorda, I'm sure, trying to get through today's game without having to use Worrell. But Guthrie ran into 2-out trouble here in the ninth.
And Joe, I was talking about that cushion you have. What exactly does that mean? Well, Houston doesn't represent the tying run. If he hits a home run, well, it's still a 6-5 game. So Worrell, really with Tyler Houston, naturally is going to try to close them out here. But if Houston does get on, or hits one out of the ballpark, they still have a 1-run lead.
Todd Worrell, as good as any closer in the National League. Trying to end it right here. 2 on, 2 out for Atlanta, and Tyler Houston at the plate. Houston, a .240 hitter. That's out of play, strike 1. Well, you go from one hard-throwing guy to the next in this Dodger bullpen. Guthrie in the middle. He almost closed it out. Now it's up to Worrell. 2 on, 2 out. Dodgers leading by 4 here in the 9th inning. Oh, 1. Strike 2. And again, the Dodgers 1 strike away from victory here in Atlanta. A 2-out hit by Perez, followed by a walk to Bautista. And now the 0-2 to the pinch hitter, Tyler Houston. Ball 1. Worrell trying to save it for Hideo Nomo, who would beat the Braves for the 2nd time in 2 decisions in his career and move his season mark to 8-5. Triple play helped out Nomo back in the 1st. 2 on, 2 out, 1-2 to Houston. 2-2. The 27th out is never easy.
I think you're right about that, setting the stage today. Had the Braves scored a couple of runs in the 1st inning, this game might have a different ending.
6-2 Dodgers, bottom of the 9th inning. 2 on, 2 out, 2-2 the count. Worrell gets the pop-up on the infield, should end the game. Karros wants it. Dodgers win 6-2 here in Atlanta and have taken 2 of the first 3 games of this 4-game series. 6-2 is the final. Today's genuine Chevrolet player of the game is the Dodgers starter, Hideo Nomo. Went 6 1/3 innings, allowed 1 run on 5 hits. He left with tightness in his right calf. The bullpen took care of the rest. And Tommy Lasorda and the Dodgers now a half game out of first with a record of 36 and 32. So the final score is Dodgers 6, Braves 2. Chip Carey, Steve Lyons, and Dave Winfield will be along with scores and highlights after these messages. For us here in Atlanta, good afternoon on Fox Sports.